And we're good to go.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Jason Siegel. I'm a research fellow in lexicography at the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus in Barbados, and I'm here to talk to you today about linguistics. A lot of you might have heard this word but have some misconceptions about it. For instance, some people think that linguistics means that you know a lot of languages. Well, in fact, lots of really good, smart, very successful linguists don't know more than one language. Right? Just like you don't need to be in a snowstorm to be a good meteorologist, in linguistics, as long as you can analyze the data, you can be a linguist. So linguistics is the science of language. And since we're a science, that means we observe what people do, how they do it, and then we try to posit some explanations for it. So we're not interested in telling you that you shouldn't end a sentence in a preposition, or you shouldn't say they are to mean there are. That's not what we do. Instead, we're more interested in the rules of what people do every day. So I'm not Bajan, but I do know that, for example, in Bajan dialect, you have two reflexes of the standard English going to. So me, in my home dialect, I could say I am going to Trinidad, or I am going to go to Trinidad. And in Bajan, it would be something more like I gang Trinidad, or I gang go Trinidad. And you can sometimes do gang for gun. So, for example, I can probably get away with saying something like I gang go Trinidad, but we can't do the opposite and do gun for gang. So I can't say something like I gang Trinidad. Those of you who are Bajan speakers, and this is something that many of them have told me, and so I trust their judgment, but it seems to just be wrong, right? This is because there are rules to what you can do in Bajan. Right? Another one might be how we treat the verb is, right? So in my home dialect, I could say something like she's tall, she's leaving, and she's a doctor. In Bajan, it would be she tall, she leffin, she's a doctor. Right? Now, what's interesting about that is that we have she tall, that z disappears, she leffin, z disappears, she's a doctor, that z stays. And without knowing it, Bajans have internalized these rules about using adjectives like tall and verbs like leffin, and treat them differently from noun phrases like a doctor. So for instance, she tall versus she's a tallie, that illustrates how differently, even when you're dealing with something that is quite similar, because you're dealing with tall as an adjective and a tallie as a noun, Bajans treat it differently. So we in linguistics care deeply about what people actually do and what they say and where that comes from. We all in Barbados know and love a fruit called ackee, right? Now the Barbadian ackee is not the same thing as the Jamaican ackee, but they do both come from the same word, and that was an African word for a fruit that's present in both West Africa and Jamaica. But when people arrived in Barbados, the Amerindians had already departed. So the Europeans didn't have anyone to ask about it. The Africans didn't have anyone to ask about it. So what the Africans did was they applied a word for something that they knew from back home to a new fruit here. The Spanish did something similar. So for instance, in the Dominican Republic, they call it limoncillo. And limon is the Spanish word for lime, and sillo just means little, so it's a little lime. And if you think about what a lime is, it's a green fruit with a thin skin that's kind of acidic. And what is an ackee? A small green fruit with a thin skin that's kind of acidic. So it makes a lot of sense that you would relate one to the other. But in most of the Caribbean, we actually did have Amerindians around. And so most of the Caribbean will use some form of the word Kinepa, which was an Arawakan word, a Taino word, for this fruit. And so in Jamaica, you'll have Guinep. In the ABC Islands and in Puerto Rico, you'll have Kinepa. In St. Bart, you have Kinique. And in Grenada, they've folk etymologized it, made it sound a little bit more familiar to skin up. So just like you could tear the skin up of an ackee or a ginnip, that is how it's rendered in Grenada. So we in linguistics, we care about history, finding historical explanations, but also finding synchronic explanations, contemporary explanations where we don't need to make reference to the past. So we look at both history and the present to give us a better sense of how language in the Caribbean works and functions today.
Thank you.